Broadcasting the information the mainstream media won't touch. This is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.
Did I tell you the day and the date? I'm terrified these days of telling you what date it is because I get it wrong. It is March 7th, 2017. It is a Tuesday. It's been a glorious, glorious early spring day here in the great city of Manchester. Although later, or late even this afternoon, there's some bad news in South Manchester, where I come from. I'm in South, I don't come from South Manchester, but I live and work in South Manchester, a mile from Withington, not even a mile, well, you could say a mile from Withington. Terrible story today. It seems that a senior citizen, an 89-year-old gentleman, lost control of his car and ploughed into a group of people standing outside or near a hospital, and it seems that 2 people have died. Terrible story, that. Really dreadful thing to happen. And a lot of talk about that locally because it happened very locally. Always good to hear from you. I do mean that. So tweet at Richie Allen Show. Tell me what you're thinking. A number of you have already jumped in with 2 feet about the breaking news. We don't like that term, but we'll use it today. That the government has been defeated in the Lords for a second time, but this time in something that has a bit more meaning, something a bit more serious. The Lords have basically voted for a meaningful parliamentary vote on the final Brexit deal. So the upper house in Westminster has said that there must be a parliamentary vote on the final Brexit deal. This was, they won 366 votes to 268. The former Deputy Prime Minister Michael Heseltine said Parliament must be the custodian of national sovereignty. This is a nonsense. But other ministers said it was unnecessary and would damage the national interest. Now, earlier on, the Lords voted against a second referendum, or having a second referendum. Michael Howard, former leader of the Conservative Party, accused the House of Lords of trying to secure a veto over Brexit because whatever vote would take place in Parliament, whatever the MPs would vote on, however they would vote on any deal between the UK and the European Union, it would then have to be carried in the House of Lords. It would be sent up to the Lords, where it could be struck down and sent back to the House of Parliament. There's a lot to this. For some people, this is complicated stuff because they don't know the way, they don't know too much about the houses of democracy, alleged democracy in the UK. They don't know how it works, but that's how it works, basically. You know, they vote on stuff in the House of Commons. It's then sent to the upper house, the House of Lords, where it's debated and it is carried and it is rubber stamped, or it is sent back to the House of Parliament. That's the way it works. It's very anti-democratic, really, because many of the Lords are appointed peers and they are given peerages, their right to be there, because in many cases they've donated large sums of money to political parties. That's effectively how many of them get in there. So this is dreadful stuff, this. It doesn't come as any surprise. Many of you, as I said, absolutely livid about this and expressing that right across Facebook and Twitter and elsewhere. But we've been warning for a long time that those who really hold the reins of power will do everything and anything they can to prevent the United Kingdom from leaving the European Union. For obvious reasons. They don't want any country to leave the European Union, to take back its own sovereignty, to legislate for itself, to make deals for itself, because if there's any sense of that country doing well and thriving, other countries which have been stuck, buried up to their necks in debt by the European Union, Greece, Ireland, Portugal, Spain and so on, might then start talking about leaving the European Union. So this is tyrannical. They will do everything and anything they can. And even though the Lords said earlier on that there shouldn't be a second referendum, that doesn't mean that there won't be a second referendum on this. We've been predicting on this programme for a long time that this is going to be messed around and it's going to be mired in bureaucracy and crap, and he said, she said, send it back to the Lords, send it back to Parliament, back to the Lords, all of this. At some stage in the next 18 months, we're going to hear more and more talk about how the nation has changed its mind, how the nation wasn't really prepared for what ultimately leaving the European Union would mean. Therefore, we need to have a second vote. And as I said before, they'll talk about all of those late teenagers, those young adults who didn't get the vote on June 23rd last year because they were too young. And it's all about their future. And don't forget, the old are useless. Senior citizens who are using up all the state's resources. Senior citizens whom we have to pay all this care for. These useless eaters. They're also racists. And they voted on racist grounds. So we need to canvass the public again. We need to put that question to the public again. And that's when there will be a second referendum. Any challenge that's ever, any serious challenge ever mounted to the European Union, the existence of it, was met with second referendum. See Denmark, see the Republic of Ireland. So don't be surprised by what's going on. Don't be surprised to what's going on, but be alive to it. Be aware of it, because it's very, very serious. Okay? It's incredibly serious stuff. They don't want any country to leave the European Union, which was set up to be a very important central pillar in the future one world government. The transfer of power to centralised unions like the European Union, and ultimately then onto a one world government. That's where it goes. It isn't conspiracy theory. It's fact. They openly talk about it. One world government. Be better if we all had a one world government. Better if we all had a single world parliament and a world authority. Wouldn't it be much better? We'd get on better. There wouldn't be any problems. The world would be a better place. You know, you have celebrities talking about things like that. You have the captains of industry talking about things like that. That's where it's going. Now, later this afternoon, and I'm going to ruffle a few feathers here, but I don't mind ruffling a few feathers. It's been announced that Wikileaks has published details of what Wikileaks says are wide-ranging hacking tools used by the Central Intelligence Agency. These alleged cyber weapons are said to include malware that targets Windows, Android, iOS, OS X and Linux computers, as well as internal routers. Some of this software is supported, or even is reported to have been developed by the CIA themselves, but they've had help apparently. The UK's MI5 agency helped them build a spyware attack for Samsung televisions. Now, as of the time we came to where the agency itself wouldn't confirm the details, wouldn't speak about it, wouldn't entertain any questions on it whatsoever. WikiLeaks have said its source shared the details with WikiLeaks to start a debate into whether the CIA's hacking capabilities had exceeded its mandated powers. A lot of articles, a lot of news. This is massive at the moment. Bloggers, journalists are weighing in on this. Articles are going up every second. Edward Snowden has come out and said that it looks real to him. Hacked televisions they're talking about. Samsung's F8000 range of smart TVs have been hacked by the CIA. The CIA allegedly created a fake off mode, so you switch the TV off, but it isn't really off. It then turns itself into a microphone effectively, and they can record what you're saying. All this stuff coming out today. WikiLeaks will talk about it with Lionel, and no doubt former CIA analyst Ray McGovern will have a comment on this later on. But I'm going to ruffle a few feathers here, but I'm only going to stay consistent and express an opinion that I've had for a long time about WikiLeaks. What has WikiLeaks ever revealed to you and to me that we didn't know already? I mean, I have a first or a second generation smart television. I was given a present of it. And it's a big old lumpy thing. And we don't use it really. We watch television on it, but we don't really connect to the internet all that often on it. In fact, we don't connect to the internet at all on it. But I've always known that the intelligence agencies had the capability to listen to me. I don't think they're too bothered with the likes of me, to be honest, and I really don't think they are bothered with me. We're small fish for the CIA. But if they choose to listen, they can tap into your smartphone, which has a microphone. They can tap into your computer, which has a microphone. Anything which has got a microphone on it can be tapped into. So what is new about that? And I think, you see, that Wikileaks is a psyop on the people of the world. I really believe that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wikileaks itself was a creation of the clandestine security agencies. Do you have any proof of that? You cry. Of course I don't have any proof of it. It just makes a bit of sense to me. Never told us anything we didn't know, Wikileaks. Never. Never anything about, the massive VIP paedophile scandal here in the United Kingdom. Nothing about that. I know you're going to shout Podesta at me now, and you're going to shout Pizzagate at me now. But again, I'm not sure about that either. I remain unconvinced about the authenticity of that. So what have they ever done, Wikileaks, other than tell us what we've known forever and a day? And I suggest that while they're talking about hacking into phones and smart televisions and using malware, as if this is news, something we've known about for a long time, isn't it possible that the likes of the CIA have moved way beyond hacking into televisions, listening through our phones and our computers and our tablets? Isn't it just possible they've moved way beyond that in terms of their capabilities? I wouldn't trust Wikileaks as far as I can throw them. And I had a very hostile interview a few years ago with Julian Assange's best friend, Kristen Hrafsson. And I basically put those questions to him. What have you ever done, really, that's so exciting and so special that we didn't know about already? Yeah, it's good that, you talk about spying, and maybe Mr. and Mrs. Joe Smith or Josephine Smith, it might wake them up to a little bit of what's going on and all of that. But it's not groundbreaking stuff, is it really? Is it really? Trump supporters, of course, are crowing about this, saying this proves everything they've been saying. It doesn't prove anything. These agencies spy on everybody, and they've been doing it forever and a day. So I ask you, what's new about that?